I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Okay, let me start this story by telling on myself. As the parent, and we were older parents of a single child, we became, and I know I did, all the things that we used to make fun of. Sarah had lots and lots of toys, and all her toys were loud. I never got the riding toy that she could just make little sounds by herself. I had to get her the loud one that made all kind of animal sounds. She had the dancing doll, which was a bribe after she got when she was potty training. And it was pretty much she kind of got a lot of stuff where you would walk into my house and say, "Why are there so many toys and this is all one child?" And I used to make fun of people who did that until I became that. But recently she and I went to Riverdance, and the three of us went to Alvin Ailey, and we were reflecting on how many times during her childhood she also had lots of experiences. Now, don't get me wrong, she also had a lot of lessons. She had piano, voice, dance, gymnastics, baton, um, ice skating briefly. She had a lot of things that some of them were expensive, gymnastics, dance, and some of them were not, like ice skating lessons or baton lessons. Those things weren't that expensive. But what she was talking about last week were all the times that we went and did things with her. And I asked her in preparation for this show, well, what do you remember? What did you like about those experiences? And she says, well, Dad used to take me to a lot of parks, and I like that because she said, don't let me be a hypocrite because I also got a lot of stuff too. But I used to work nights and Sean worked days. So when I would pick her up from daycare and bring her in sometimes, or before she went to daycare, I would bring her into work and he would take her home. And a lot of times he would stop by different parks on the way and let her play, blow off some steam. And she remembers those things fondly. Now she's in her mid 20s now, but I think that there are just a few toys that she remembers. Maybe the the Game Boy that we got her for when she was traveling, and she said because we didn't she didn't have a tablet. She was a little before the tablet kids. But sisters, I want to talk about all the things that we can give our kids that aren't expensive toys. And sometimes it's just spending the time with them. And that's what she remembers. And even now, that's what she wants to do. She wants to spend time with us.
Yeah, I think
The
that is
experiences
that's the most.
stay in your mind forever. I look back myself and I'm remembering every summer, Mama and Daddy took us to Riverview, and
Riverview.
those rides were so much fun. And I remember seeing Aladdin's Castle and wanting to go in there, and Mama would say, "No, you're too young. When you get old enough, you can go." And then I remember the year that Mama said I could go to Aladdin's Castle was the year that they tore Riverview down. And I was so disappointed. And there are just so many things that we did as a family. You know, that line, "Are we there yet?" Well, we would go down south to Grandma and Grandpa's house in Alabama and West Virginia and be on their farm and try to chase down the kittens and the great breakfasts that Aunt Annie B made, and watching Daddy come back from the lake where he had been fishing and bringing home all these fish. And I remember him being scared of turtles. And those days just have such fond memories. we did stuff. We had toys, of course, but our outings were just memorable. Going to the zoo every year and experiencing some different part of going to the zoo. And I think even my own kids and grandkids, they remember the fun things we did as a family when we went places. Feeding the giraffes was a major experience, and they're still talking about that. And going to the pool and being with other kids for like maybe a birthday party or something. They all remember the birthday parties. I remember there was this one with my grandson. He's still all into dinosaurs, and they had a guest come in with a giant dinosaur puppet on her arm, and she said, "Oh, this is a baby stegosaurus," and all the kids were all screaming and running around waiting to pet it. That's something that my grandson is going to remember forever. Those things are so special.
I think it's the time that you spend with your children that they remember more than the things that you brought them. If there was anything I would advise young parents today, don't think just giving your child a tablet so they can sit somewhere in a corner and amuse themselves is going to be good enough, because what happens is they don't really develop imagination. Number one, I mean, if you have a toy that's doing everything for you, what do you need imagination for? So the best thing you can do is give your child experiences, because they're going to remember and they're going to develop a vocabulary as they describe it. I mean, how many words you need to know to talk about something you're watching on a screen? Not a whole lot. But if you can talk about when you went someplace, the water park, all kinds of visual stimulation, it really helps develop a child's intellect when they have memorable experiences, when they go places and they notice things you would never even think of. And they remember a lot of the sensory experiences. And with Zakia, we like to travel with her, and we would take her places. And then she really developed a bond with her grandparents, because Daddy had this routine I think he was one that picked her up from daycare, because both Sultana and I, we were out working and so forth. I think that's during the time we were working on the books. And so he would pick her up from her preschool, and they had this routine. He'd take her to McDonald's, and then, might go some other place and things like that, or park or whatever. And she remembers that, and they really bonded during that time. And when I would take her out to a park, or we'd walk down the street, and certain people's homes that were famous might live along certain blocks. Oh, this is so-and-so's house, and that kind of thing. So she remembers the time spent. And then when we went to, in her school, Betty Shabazz International Charter School, they did a lot of creative things. They had sleepovers. They had a sleepover I think it was at the Museum of Science and Industry one time. Oh. Yeah, that was different. They had a sleepover at the school where they did a lot of games and all kinds of, activities there, and a lot of parents were involved. So she had a rich childhood of travel to different places. When we would go to our annual, religious conventions and go to different cities, and went to Philadelphia, went to, we had friends that we go visit. They lived in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So I think when she remembers childhood experiences, it was more of the time spent, more of the people that you go to. But Chicago has got so many things to do. And I know she's the same thing. Well, probably, sure, you're probably just like I am. You don't do the tourist things in your city until somebody comes to visit. So we would do the tourist thing that somebody that didn't live here would come to visit. Take them to Sears. Well, it used to be Sears Tower. It's going to always be Sears Tower. Willis Tower. But
Sears changed it back. It is now Sears Tower.
Oh, did they change it back?
Yes.
They called it Willis Tower, I'm sure.
Willis wasn't working, yeah. So, yeah. So, taking them to the top of that, the different things that they would have. They've got boat rides here. So it's all kinds of activities. And then the museums that are just world famous. I think every school, all if your school's worth anything, you're going to take your children on field trips to all these world class museums that Chicago has. So I think parents should also do that. Don't wait for the school to do it, because you can do it as a family and it has more meaning. Because, you know, when you go to school, you got to go through the whole discipline thing. Okay, you walk this way, and you can't really dawdle and everything. But when you go as a family to these museums, then you can take the time, you can look at the exhibits, you can talk about it, you can sit down and eat lunch at the different places, you know, all kinds of things that you can't really do in a relaxed manner as much at school. So I think parents, even wherever city you live in, get to know the city and take your children to the historic sites, take them to the tourist spots, you know, talk to them about things, let them explore, let them think about history, make it fun. It's not as fun when it's just a school trip, because, you know, it's a school trip, even though they like to get out the school building, but still when it's a family thing, they remember spending time with their family.
And this is the thing, is that I would encourage people to do. And Barbara, you can back me up on this, because when you were living in Chicago with your kids, you would get passes from the library to different museums. And the reason why I bring this up is because I don't want to sound elitist, because museums can be very expensive. And I know that. And it was easier for me because we were both working and we were older parents and we were pretty established. But a lot of times, if you have more than one kid, it gets expensive. Well, spend a little more money, just a little bit more money, and it may be $200-300. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I'm not going to lie. But if you can get a membership to those museums, especially something like the Children's Museum in your town, if you have a town children's museum, get the membership, and then you can take your kids anytime they want to go. If you have an aquarium, if you can spend a little bit more money, save up, spend the money, museums, art museums, things like that. Sometimes it looks like, oh my goodness, this is just like so much money to spend at once. But I encourage you to do it if you can, because sometimes it's $30 or $40 just to get in for that one time. So if you spend a little bit, almost as much as you would spend for one time with like 2 or 3 kids, and you get a year's membership, you can go as much as you want to. And it's nice, and they have different, and I know the Museum of Science here, they have a lot of different programs. I used to belong to just about everything. So because I just wanted to have something to do other than having her sit in front of the TV. And so, you know, not that we didn't do that too. But there are some days when you just need to get out of the house. You know, everybody goes to the aquarium when it rains for some reason. I don't know why. But you can also go
surrounded by water.
Yeah, you come out of water, go and look at some water.
Yeah, to go look at some water. So, but you can go to the Museum of Science, and they always have special exhibits. You can go to the Children's Museum. You can go to the aquarium. If you have other museums, I know Chicago has a ton of museums there. If you live in DC, like we're planning on going to the African American Museum, assuming that it won't be destroyed when we get there. That's a whole nother show. But take the time to.
They're not gonna hurt DuSable.
Well, you know, one of the things that I think is important for parents to do is to take those trips to the nation's capital. You all, when you were going to Shoop, I believe they had the trip to you all to Washington D.C. I think children should go to the nation's capital. I think that's that's history, and there's a lot of things that you can learn from. I mean, it feels more real when you're studying government and all of that when you've seen the nation's capital. Even going to Boston for the me and Zakiya used to go to Boston all the time for 4th of July. But you know, you kind of absorb a lot of history, even being in a city like Boston for the 4th of July. And I have up on the screen here for those who are in Chicago or going to visit Chicago, the free admission days for a lot of the museums. And I think, of course, I've been to every last museum. But, you know, there are also a lot of free things that cities like Chicago have that you'd be surprised because you had, and I remember one year, I think Zakia was in college by that time, but it was great because Stevie Wonder came and did a free concert out in Grant Park. I'm like, what? So, it was one of those things. I think it was I don't know if it was Push that sponsored it, but it was some major thing. And he came and I was surprised because like her and her friends, they singing along with the song. I'm like, how y'all know the words?
Because they're recycling our generation.
Oh, Stevie Wonder from 1972. How do you know that song? But it was a packed place. Yeah.
It's like Destiny's Child. A lot of the stuff that Sarah knows, and she'll hear, she says, "This is part of my childhood because this is the songs that you had on when you were
right." That's how they remember. Yes.
But this is the thing with, like I said, Barbara used to get passes to museums, and sometimes if you cannot afford to go to the local library and see if they'll get you passes to some of these museums. And I'm not saying if you can't afford it, but because you know what? You pay taxes. I don't care how much you make or don't make. You pay taxes. So you're paying for this stuff. Go on your website.
There's always opportunities for things.
And find out what programs. I remember there was one year a friend of mine, her son and Sarah went to school together, and she told me about this program in Franklin Park where they were giving free golf lessons to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, well, I just want, I'd like to, go. And so we went. I got Sarah like a little golf thing of like, I don't know, 3 or 4 clubs or something.
Yeah, I remember we went golfing, miniature golf. The whale watch, that was fun too. Yeah, going whale watching.
Whale watch, if you're living near water, or if you come to Boston, do a whale watch. Do one of those goofy little duck tours.
Wait a minute, what was that? I remember the first time you talked about going whale watching. And I was thinking WELL. I'm like, how boring is that?
HALE, and you go out
watch a whale.
You watch a whale. You will go and see them come up and deep in the water. Sometimes you see dolphins.
You can tell people born and raised in the city, they don't know stuff.
Well, one of the fun things at the zoo here, the kids, they have all the listings of the times when the animals are being fed, and you can go and feed the animals. They have a huge cage where all the birds are, flying freely, and you can actually feed the birds. You go in, they give you a little instruction, not to be afraid. They put a little bird food on a stick, and you can go inside the cage where all the birds are, and the birds, they will, they'll climb up on your shoulder, they'll eat the food, fly away, and everybody's real gentle. I know my grandkids totally loved it because they have birds at home, so they were used to it. And that kind of activity really gives kids such joy. They got to feed all kinds of animals while they were there. They have the manatee, I think, where you got to feed them also underwater. So many of those things were just exciting, and they were a lot of free activities, like a lot of the little trails where you go, you pay like $5 for your whole family, and you walk along the trails. You see all the different kind of animals and habitats, and those things, the kids learn a lot. You're not in a hurry. They take the time for you to read the inscription about whatever exhibit or animal is roaming freely. And they come back talking about those things. They remember those things. And, before technology, when we were in the car on our way somewhere, we would play these little car games, like the first one to see a red Volkswagen or this kind of vehicle or that kind of car. We would play Travel Scrabble. We just had a lot of fun and reading, and we listened to a lot of tapes online. I know cars now, I don't think they even have CDs anymore, but we would listen to all kinds of old time radio shows where you really had to listen to grasp what was happening in the story that they were telling. There are just
Oh,
so many.
yeah. Well, I think traveling, and then that's another thing. Traveling across country, that's a whole different thing. The times when me, Sultan, Zakia, and maybe a couple other people riding with us, we would go across country, going to conventions, going to different events. You see the countryside, you see a lot of different things that you don't normally see growing up in the city, cornfields, everything else. But then you get a chance to have some really nice conversations, and like you say, you can listen to different things on the radio. But it's
or
always it's an adventure because you're getting out of your regular urban
Routine.
environment and
Yes.
seeing the rolling hills and all of that. So they get a real sense of the expanse of the country, and it's hard to teach that from a book. You have to physically go sometimes. So I'm taking a look at some of the images of the Buckingham Fountain. Now we used to take Zakia downtown and just hang out at the Buckingham Fountain, and when at night it's just magical looking.
Colorful.
Yeah, very colorful, just picturesque. So we did that on a regular basis. And when then when they would do the colors, at night they would change colors and see all that. So the city's really beautiful. And when you have different places where you live that you can go and appreciate, whether it's a park or a downtown area, you first of all, you want to expose your children to other places. Take them to a nice restaurant sometimes where they got to dress up and be fancy and feel special, because that's also part of, I guess, cultural training, even knowing that there are places to go and you feel special. So
that we belong in those spaces. Because
Yeah.
this is the thing, we need to remember that our children belong to this world. We are people of the world, and there are no places that we should
right.
not be able to go. Find some place that is welcoming, and
Yeah.
and then put on, and it's kind of fun. And like I said, well, food's expensive now, so but you plan for these things, or you just go to a nice sightseeing, or just go to a nice window shop, whatever you need to do, just to let our children know that our children belong here, because we have to give the talk so soon of don't do this, don't do that, don't touch anything,
Mhm.
don't ask for anything. I mean, we got all those old school things that
That's one thing we never did with Zakia. We never made her feel like
like
she was
you
ever
don't
going to
belong
be treated.
somewhere.
I
Yes.
never made
Yeah.
her feel that way. She always felt like she belonged, and I'm sure that's probably why she had no problem getting on a plane, going halfway across the world with no fear at all. Because
Yes.
that was never
Totally.
with her.
Yeah.
That
And I was going to also say that the Navy Pier has a lot of free activities right
Exactly.
there on the pier. You don't have to pay
Yeah.
for everything. I don't know if they're still doing this, but in the summer they would always have like this children's show on the stage and give little prizes, let kids be involved in their little events that they were doing. And those things, I took the kids to those things all the time, every summer. The kids just love that stuff, and they remember those things.
Yeah.
Stuff that
Also,
didn't cost much.
You'd be surprised at the detail that they remember about an event, and it'd be something you wouldn't even thought they would remember, but that would be some little odd thing, and they would remember.
but we're also, because we are getting ready to get into summer, kids are going to be getting out of school in about a month or so. And
Yeah,
remember, your local Y may have different programs. Libraries, a lot of times they have programs. So
they
we're
do.
not looking for you to break the bank every time you go out. We're looking for, we're just saying that explore some of those things that they can go and, get an ice cream afterward. You know, the park that has the sprinklers, have them get in their bathing suits, grab a towel, and have them go and get wet up, those kinds of things. A lot of places have those, and we have just gotten so used to feeling like, oh, okay, you got this, sit down, watch something, don't think about this. And a lot of times you're not even thinking, because if you're tired when you come home from work, and Sarah said this, she says, I don't see how in the world you all did that, because when I'm out of
We're
work, I am
energized by our
tired. But
youthful children.
we were older parents, and I did not want us to be old parents for her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Sean would get off of work, and he's done 8 hours or so, and he still had to take her somewhere. So he'd take her to the park. Then she'd go to 99 restaurant and sit and do her homework, and had her favorite waitress, and the whole thing. So we weren't big cookers, and I still ain't. He still does more cooking. But
But those things that you remember the times, you remember maybe the time you did do a cookout in the backyard, or you remember, going to a friend's house for a cookout. You remember, all kinds of things. The thing is, they remember the times that they laughed. That's what impressed
when
me.
they laugh, when they
And Juneteenth is coming up. A lot of neighborhoods have special events for Juneteenth. I know here in Florida, they have like the market space where you can go. You see all of the different activities that are available for kids to participate in. Something as simple as face painting, because I've done face painting at these events, and the museum that is attached, where you see all of the historical African American inventors and physicians and architects. All these people are just lauded, and it's highlighted during the Juneteenth celebration. And it isn't just on that one day. They make it be a week or two long event, so everyone has a chance to go out and support their local businesses, meet other different entrepreneurs that are starting. I've gotten some of the best jewelry I've ever owned at these Juneteenth celebrations. And these things are often sponsored by different family groups in the neighborhood that have decided to get together to give their kids something different and unique and special during the summer months when they're out of school, and they want to give them some kind of routine that gives them good memories of their times at home. They're good memories of their times being out of school, things that they do that they don't ordinarily get to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one of the things that you mentioned, Juneteenth, of course, we have the world famous DuSable Museum of African American History here, which I think is definitely a must. People should make sure their children have some wholesome history, especially if they are able to go and see some of the exhibits. And we of course do a lot of events at the DuSable Museum, but also that's a place that, well, we've done book signings there because they carried our books, but they have a lot of special displays and events, performances, and even the grounds there. They have the African Festival of the Arts in that area every year. So a lot of different neighborhood festivals that go on, a lot of vendors, a lot of cultural things. So I think people, like you say, you can always go online and look and see what is happening in your city, so that you can take your children out of the neighborhood sometimes and see something else, meet some different kinds of people. They can learn some things, and they can experience history in a lot of these events. So, I think parents have to kind of see what's going on. Like you say, the summer's coming up. A lot of different things you can do. Do not have your children just sit at home and watching TV or sitting in front of a tablet. Do not do that this summer. They need to get out.
I want to jump in because we do have to go. But I want to say also consider maybe a block party. I mean, you can get some of your neighbors together. It's usually not much for you to call the city and have them block off the street. Have maybe a bouncy house. Sometimes that doesn't cost that much if other people pull it together. I used to get a bouncy house when we used to do church activities, and it'd be like 200, 250 or something. Things like that. The kids like, you just go out, make it safe for them to go out in the street. But like I say, I know we're out of time, but I just want to say, your kids want to spend that time with you, and you want to spend your time with your kids. So let's not think that it's always about money or things. Sometimes it's time and experiences.
Yes, time is always best. Well, thank you all for joining us. Get ready for a great summer. Spend that time. And until next time, make sure you like and subscribe to our Facebook page and YouTube channel so you can get notified every time we go live at 5 p.m. Sundays Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. And until next time, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black moms. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.